V. This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of My River District, a show all about Owen Sound, its businesses, and why people love it here. I am sitting down with Lauren Best. We've spoken before, but I'm excited to have you back. And today, Lauren Best will be telling us all about Lauren Best. So hi, Lauren Best.
Hi, it's great to be here again with you.
So how are you?
I'm excellent.
Good.
I'm excellent.
So I wanted to talk to you as a person. We talked about the Owen Sound Memoir Series and how wonderful that is and how everybody should go and buy tickets and go to the workshops and go to the talks and all that kind of stuff. But you are so invested in a lot of the arts beyond that and a lot of coaching and management and things like that. You have a website, it's called bestpracticearts.com. You also have a Lauren Best website where we can learn a little bit more about you and your writing and things like that. I want to get to know you a little bit more. So I've known you for a couple of years. There was a production being put on and you did some of the voice coaching, which was really wonderful. I felt much more confident going on stage and singing to a complete audience when I got a little bit of coaching. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so what was that experience like for you? I mean, as music director, it was pretty fun and amazing to have so many voices that I was working with. I think there were over 50 people in that production.
Oh yeah, mostly kids.
But what was that experience like for you? Because I actually had thought, and I know this interview isn't about you, but I thought that you were coming to it as quite an experienced singer because of your stage presence. But tell me a little about it.
No, I came and I auditioned for it knowing very well that it would be a large character, have a large part in the play. And it was also an evil person, which I particularly love to play as the villain. And the character itself just kind of developed into this large, very, projecty type character because she was the queen and she was so good. But then having to sing a song as not part of a chorus was very, very scary. It made me very uncomfortable. I hated it all until I had actually performed it. And now I would totally do it again.
Yes, that's what I love to hear. And that's what I tell people about working with their voice. Because as a voice coach, I help people, I've helped singers a lot and worked in singing and improvising contexts and choirs. But now I help podcasters and business owners that want to use their voice. I mean, business owners are already using their voice.
Yes.
But especially for recording their voice, for podcasting, we know there are lots of opportunities to be making content and talking to the world much more quickly and easily than it used to be, but it's so natural for it to be scary at first.
Yes.
Whether it's singing or speaking, some people find one easier than the other. Some people find singing easier than speaking in front of others, and vice versa. But it's really natural to have jitters, or because it's new to us, right? For it to feel a bit overwhelming, but then once you kind of climb that mountain, you have that experience, it's different on the other side.
It is. It's quite the experience to go out and not only overcome something you were terrified of, but do it in front of an audience. And it was the singing that I was terrified of, not necessarily the audience. I have no problem speaking in front of audiences. I'm kind of obnoxious about it, honestly. But the singing, I'm not a singer. I don't sing in the shower. I don't really sing in my car unless, the Backstreet Boys come on or something. And then, it gets pretty serious 90s. But yeah, so having a coach like yourself come in and do that, where you're working with the children, but you're also working with these adults who are very stubborn and unwilling, it was really, really lovely. So what is your voice coaching? What does voice coaching for a podcast look like?
That's a great question, and it does depend a bit on the person, because as you said, you consider yourself a talker, so to speak. I hope you consider yourself a singer now.
Well.
But some of it has to do with our identity and with what we expect, right? So people who don't identify as having a story to tell, or as being confident,
right,
or as being able to improvise in a conversation, some of that is around shifting the expectations and being really clear on our goals and our why and what's motivating us to show up.
Okay.
There are certainly things we can do that help both singers and people with speaking. And that's part of the reason that and I can loop back around to more of the details of what it looks like depending on the individual and what they need to improve. Whether that's about confidence and the presence that we show up with, whether that's part of that is about being comfortable, but also speaking with conviction and connecting with people emotionally and connecting in a way that's authentic, but is also delivering the impact that we want it to be. Authentic doesn't necessarily mean floundering in being unsure and vulnerability. There's vulnerability that's for a purpose, and that has a poise to it. And for some people, it's about the instrument itself and getting clarity and flow and increasing the range of expression and just really waking up those muscles, waking things up and like how someone might get fit, get in shape, and they might experience huge gains in their physical coordination, right? How limber they feel, how agile they feel. We can do the same for our voice and for our vocal instrument. But what I was going to say is that the part of the reasoning behind this, there's a saying or a quote that music is too important to be left only to the professionals.
Okay.
And in my background as a music educator, I really saw how people would not consider themselves to be music people, but still be able to gain so much from participating in something musical, or from building their skills, or just from appreciating music. And sometimes the shift would even happen where they would say, maybe I am a musician, or maybe I am someone who is creative, or who could explore these things, or I don't believe I'm creative, but I could do those things that you were showing, right? And I particularly saw the huge potential for people to connect with their voices and to sing, because singing has huge physical benefits for our immunity, for our mood. It's supportive to our breathing. It helps us connect with other people. We have a tremendous ability to improvise and collaborate musically with our voices, even if we aren't that trained or wouldn't consider ourselves skilled. There's lots we can do that is definitely in the realm of training and skill development, but it's pretty incredible how much innate, I would even say musical potential, but vocal potential we have. And whether that's with singing or whether that's with speaking and telling our stories. So the more I became interested in singing and helping people use their voices, I realized that also singing is too important to be left to people who consider themselves singers.
Sure.
Or another way of thinking it is that developing our voices, connecting with our voices, I saw as really foundational, really important. I see it as a portal inwards to self-awareness, because it makes us literally more aware of our body, our interoception, our how we move, right? But also how we learn, how we encounter challenges, how we can express ourselves, or how we can mimic things, this potential we have with our physical instrument. But it's also a portal outwards, right? To connect with other people. Clearly, to the moment we're born, we get our needs met by screaming.
Sure.
And then we keep getting our needs met by talking, and professionals and business owners are using their voice all the time, and have often not spent a lot of time training or connecting with their voice, or considering how they use their voice and how they might care for their voice, but also expand and improve the way they can connect with other people. So in realizing that the voice is too important to be left to people who are willing to consider themselves singers, as much as I'm still on a mission to help more people consider themselves singers, my mission has broadened a bit to help people with not only their voice as an instrument, but also their voice in terms of their creative voice, their inner voice, what they have to share.
Right. So like the voice of, in a business owner's case, the voice of their business, being able to tell the story around that business and why it came to fruition and all of those kinds of things. You help them develop that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's partially about developing the individual and developing their personal skill level, but it's also about how that connects to their business, absolutely. And when I help business owners with podcasting, sometimes it's about that aspect. Sometimes it's about their ability to show up and perform, so to speak, in terms of telling the story and feeling good about it, enjoying themselves, right?
Yes.
But also feeling that they're making the impact they want to make on whatever that, like, quote unquote stages, right? Whatever podcast they're on. But sometimes that can be starting their own podcast. And sometimes that can be about the creative process. So for people who already have a podcast or who already are guests on podcasts, it's about going and digging a little deeper into how can we make this even more effective, even more fruitful for your business. And that can look like meeting new customers and increasing sales and those kinds of things for a business owner. But that can also look like connecting with collaborators, connecting within the industry, being regarded as an authority and sharing your expertise. But it can fit in other places in the customer journey too. You know, customers that you already have, helping them connect even deeper, and that customer retention piece. But it can also be around education.
Sure.
And educating future customers so that by the time they call you, they know you, they like you, they get what's going on, and they have some of the education pieces that you would otherwise be taking care of in the customer journey after they call you.
It's so funny. So I was in sales for many, many years. And what you're talking about is really developing, you know, that elevator pitch. So it's, you know, you have a 5-minute story if you have 5 minutes. You have a 2-minute story if you have 2 minutes. You have like a 10-second story if you have 10 seconds, and how to get your, in my case, it was how to get your product across and things like that, and the value. But in a business owner's case, it would be the value of their business, and value not being necessarily monetary. You know, you offer classes, you offer different learning opportunities, and then you also have merchandise or supplies or things like that. So it's interesting, because I always felt as a salesperson that if you were a good actor, you could be a good salesperson. So it's all kind of come full circle now, and I totally understand what you're talking about and the importance of business owners knowing that, knowing what to say, but also knowing how to control the length in which they're saying it. They don't get into this 5-minute conversation when they know it's going to be 2. So what are your like top 3 facts that you want to get into the conversation that's going to get across, whether you're doing a commercial for your business, whether or not you're talking to a new customer and all of that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of a beautiful meeting of my worlds to see that come across. And I think it's absolutely important for any business owner to know how to speak about their business clearly.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about podcasting is that sometimes podcasts are short, and you can deliver those short messages. And of course, whatever you do on your podcast or while guesting is excellent practice for when you want to deliver those short messages in even shorter media opportunities. But what's really cool about podcasts is they're often a little longer.
Right.
So you can get into a bit of your own journey as an entrepreneur. I think depending on the business, people have varying levels of either comfort or different strategies around this, but the time to have a personal brand has never been, I mean, now is the time, right? It's never been more important to have a personal brand. And even if you aren't thinking about, even if you wouldn't call it that, even if you wouldn't call it developing a personal brand, people still want to know who the person is behind the product, or who the person is behind the business, and what called you to do that. I mean, starting a business is no small thing.
No.
And people want to know what took you to that point that you decided to bring your product to market, or you decided to help the community by offering your service. And so the cool thing about podcasts is they're often a bit longer. It doesn't have to be super long. There are some great short podcasts, but often you get to spend a little more time with this potential customer or current customer than you might otherwise. So, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or, sometimes even an hour. And they've actually shown, you'll love this with your background in sales, that the way people listen to podcasts is different. It is becoming more and more that people will put on a podcast in the living room,
right, on
a smart TV, and it's replacing television in some cases, which is also cool.
But not Rogers TV.
But that people are listening while they're doing other things.
Right.
And so the way that they're processing the information, the way they're thinking about it, the level of intimacy, it actually has been shown to increase brand recognition.
Right.
Because they're listening and engaging in a different kind of way. Go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt you. We have to go to break.
Yes.
But when we come back, we're going to talk more about creating your personal brand and why it's so important. So we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Viveca Gravel, Community Development Coordinator with the City of Owen Sound and the River District. And welcome to My River District. This is a show where every week we'll be here at Rogers Studios talking to you and talking to local businesses and people in the community about why they, as locals, love it here. They'll also share some stories about their businesses and how they can help you. So meet us here every week, Rogers TV, for the whole season of My River District.
I'm Mayor Ian Body. If you want to understand the decisions being made about your community, please join us on Rogers TV Cable 53 on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. or online at rogerstv.com to watch the Owen Sound City Council. You can also read our agendas and reports or watch replays of meetings at owensound.ca. We hope you'll stay informed and we hope you'll tune in. Thanks.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. Join me for my next show where my guest will be Sue Carlton, Mayor of Georgian Bluffs. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
Hi, thanks for staying with us. I'm sitting down today with Lauren Best of bestpracticearts.com, and we were just talking about creating a personal brand. So I just wanted to kind of wrap that up a little bit, and the importance of creating the personal brand.
I think business owners, because I've been a business owner for a while. I started off freelancing, and I mean, I was a musician performing. I understood that personal brand, right? But in my own business with Best Practice Arts, offering music lessons, sometimes I thought, well, it's about the people taking the music lessons. They don't need to know about me. But the more I've been speaking with other business owners, with podcasters, I realized that when I model what I do and who I am and what my thinking is behind it, it allows people to connect in a much different way than when I do say a lot of, this is how, you can join me in this. This is how I can help you. I include that. Yeah. But they want to understand why I'm there, why I'm talking to them, what I went through and what I overcame to get to that point. And by seeing that possibility, people are not only inspired themselves, but they're able to remember me better and connect emotionally more easily. And it's really changed the way that I approach talking about my business and talking about myself. And I think for any business, even if it may not feel connected to your personal brand, that's part of the fun. That's part of the creativity, is finding the relevant links. And there are lots of resources to help with that. Even if you just talk to a friend about it, you don't have to go through that alone. But I think every business owner should think about their own personal story, their personal stories, right? Do some fishing and think about the ways that does connect for their customers and for their business.
Well, and it's funny because people are naturally mirrors. Right? So if you start talking about your stuff personally, getting, let's say, intimate with those details and stuff, I am more likely to also present that from myself. And as a business owner, the way you talk about your business and all those details and stuff like that is going to be mirrored in the customers that are coming in, or the clientele that are coming in. So you need to be the best representation of that, so that your clients or clientele are leaving with that same sensation, right?
Totally.
Knowing that it's like an emotional thing. And especially when you talk about a small community like Owen Sound or even Grey Bruce, it's like you need to emotionally connect to them because you want them to come back. And these people become your friends and your neighbors and all of that kind of stuff. It's not just being Joe Nobody in Toronto.
And also, especially in a small town, you have a personal brand whether you like it or not.
Absolutely.
So by choosing the stories you tell that you feel are, I talk about the stories being relevant to your business. It doesn't have to be like a direct link. They can be relevant to your business because they talk about your own courage or curiosity or drive, or it can be about the values behind your business as well. But by sharing those stories and feeling able to, because I know it's not always easy. I know it can even be vulnerable at times, but I have to say, a vulnerable story, it's a different kind of vulnerable when it's framed with purpose, because you want to connect with other people and share with other people. And I don't mean connected to purpose because you want your business to do well. That's part of it, but it's not just about your business doing well. It's about helping people. There's something about your business that is helping humans, and there's something about you, or there are many things about you that are helping humans.
Right.
So by proactively thinking about how you paint that picture, it's not just so you look good, but that helps too. It's so that it's clear in people's minds, and so that they can tell stories about you in a good kind of way.
Yeah, you develop a relationship versus just a transactional piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And people who feel as though they are connected personally will invest more time and ultimately more money in your business as well. So there's a direct correlation, so I understand that. What does it look like for a business owner to connect with you to start this process?
So you can find out where to connect with me on my website on bestpracticearts.com.
Okay.
You can also listen to my podcast and hear some things I have to say and get to know me. That's at laurenbest.substack.com, but it's called Lauren's Best, and you can also search it on any podcast player. But I love to hear from business owners. I love to talk to business owners about their creative process when they're producing podcasts or other audio or media for their business, and about who they are as entrepreneurs and what they want to do. So please do get in touch if you're hearing this, because I love to connect, and if it doesn't turn out that you want to work with me directly, I can point you in the right direction.
Sure, that's fantastic. So what other things do you offer other than just creating this personal story and learning how to speak? You do a lot more stuff than that as well.
So I'm often found at events. So I love collaborating with organizations and businesses on training, professional development, speaking at events. I am a musician and performance poet, so sometimes I have the artist hat on at events. Collaborating to offer workshops is something I have a lot of experience and background in. And so sometimes that is bringing in the poetry elements, writing workshops, the music elements. These days, more and more of my focus is on podcasting and audio production, and just the tremendous possibility and potential that holds.
Right. Well, I think that's really, really interesting. And we talked about the fact that you're also recording your podcast from an office in your house. So it just being available and accessible to a lot of people a lot more easily than some other things. Not everybody has a studio to bring people in. I'm lucky enough to have Rogers. But being able to produce it, you speak to somebody, they can be in their pajamas somewhere else. It's just very accessible for people. And I think that's really great. And there's a whole generation of people who listen to podcasts more thoroughly than they would watch a television show or anything like that. And you were saying something about, during the break, about the amount of people listening or how they listen, 80% something?
Yeah, so the average podcast listener, and there will be different people and different demographics, but the average podcast listener, a woman who's 39, is keeping up with about 5 shows, and she's listening to every episode, usually about at least 85% of the way through. So for those who are into podcasts, they really connect with the hosts.
Right.
And it can be a super cool opportunity to not only, you're talking about relationships, developing relationships as a podcaster, guesting on other people's shows.
Right.
Not only do I love having people on my show, amplifying their message,
Absolutely.
Being in the driver's seat, so to speak, and developing relationships that way, but also on the flip side, guesting on other people's shows, not only do I get a chance to connect with their audience, which I value so much, but also to develop a relationship with them, with that host. And it's been very cool not only to connect with local podcasters, to talk to local entrepreneurs about how they want to share their voice, but to connect with people really all over the world through guesting on other shows. And it makes me proud to talk about where I live, to talk about Owen Sound, and being able to be an entrepreneur with a local business and making local impact, but also connecting with people worldwide and having a bigger impact that way.
And you also have, you're speaking about this little community of podcasters, of creatives and things like that you work with, but you were able to get some of the representatives in the memoir series to come and be on your show as well, through your work with the memoir series. So I think that's really cool, because a podcast, somebody being in a podcast studio, I feel is like a little bit more, not vulnerable, but more likely to say something because they don't feel as exposed. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's something about podcasting that's very intimate, right? When people listen to podcasts, I mean, some people do listen to them in the car, or they'll play it on their phone while they're doing other things, but in lots of cases, people have headphones in.
Right.
And it's really directly into their ears, right? I think people recognize that when they're recording. I think there's something special about the long form format as well. There's improvising is a big part of podcasting. I mean, we can certainly prepare. Part of that is strategic preparation, envisioning the creative process, making it happen, knowing what to ask your guests and how to work with them so that you're touching upon what you want to touch upon. But there's some magic there, right? There's some improvising, which it is an evidence-based practice to use music and singing and specifically vocal improvisation to help increase our ability to get into creative flow.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, I mean, I've learned so much having you on here, and I feel like we could continue this conversation for hours. And you're so passionate about what you do and what you can bring to business owners, to anybody else. So I encourage everybody to go out and listen to Lauren's Best on any Spotify channel. But I have one last question for you before you leave, and that is, why do you, as a local, love it here?
I was thinking about that question, and I was remembering kayaking through downtown and appreciating so much this new perspective on this town I know and love. And I think that's one of my favorite things. Not only is it not in every place that you can kayak through downtown, and that alone is pretty darn special, but I think that I get new perspectives on the wildlife, you know, new natural wonders to visit, even when I think I've explored it all, and new perspectives on the culture and the people. So I love the way Owen Sound shines in different ways.
I love that. So thank you again so much for being here. I want to present you with your official Locals Love It Here badge of honor.
Thank you.
Please wear it with pride. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on and being here for the memoir series and being here to represent yourself. You are clearly a very intelligent person who is very passionate about these things and very passionate about voice, giving yourself a voice and giving others a voice. So thank you again, and we will see you next time.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
I did it.
I need it.
The hero gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop